Sometimes even the tiniest little details about the way you set your bike up can make a massive difference to your riding enjoyment. There could be glaringly obvious adjustments needed or just the tiniest pedantic changes, but everything will have an effect. Here's a rundown of our advice on how to get the perfect bike setup.
It's quite easy to make a mistake when setting up your brake levers, and you wouldn't be the only person that rides a bike with misaligned brakes. Regardless of the angle you like to run your brakes, both levers should be set up the same. I like to check my levers with my eyes closed. This allows me to feel for the right angle without being distracted by how it looks. Just loosen the bolts a touch and adjust until they feel perfect. I've lost count on the number of times I've ridden other people's bikes and noticed the stem angled off to one side. While most of us will adapt to a little bit of a wonky setup, it can massively impact your control and comfort, shifting your weight unevenly through the bars. It's easy to check if your stem is off though. Stand over your bike and look through the stem towards the front tyre. You can use the straight edge of your wheel to check the alignment. If it looks off, loosen the bolts attaching the stem to the steerer slightly and gently nudge the stem straight. It helps to brace the wheel against something, even your leg, to help keep things straight. When you're happy, tighten the bolts again. This one's properly easy. Most of us use lock-on grips, so there's no excuse to suffer from slipping grips. Be sure to tighten the collars enough so they don't spin, and while you're at it, check your grips for wear. A good set of grips doesn't cost the earth, so replace them before they get you into trouble. Pedantic? Yes. Useful? Absolutely. When you fit your tyres, make sure to align the main logos with your valves. Not only does this result in your bike looking properly pro in pictures, but it also makes it easier to locate your valves when the time comes to top up the pressure. Just as Romeo and Juliet ended in tragedy, your tyres are another area where different families shouldn't meet. Each tyre brand designed their tyres to work best when matched front and rear. We're not saying you can't mix and match, we're just saying you shouldn't. Your tyres work best when kept at the right pressure. If you know what pressures you normally ride, it's a simple job to check it every time you head out for a spin. If you're running the wrong pressures, it could result in problems with your handling and also a really uncomfortable ride. So this can be a little bit tricky depending on the make and model of saddle you use. As a rule of thumb, the middle third of your saddle should be pretty much level with the ground. A lot of the saddles have a drop nose to make it more comfortable when climbing and a kicked up tail to hold you in place. So bear this in mind when measuring your saddle. Some riders do have a preference to angle their saddle a touch for personal comfort, but make sure it's not too severe as it will put your weight in the wrong place for most riding situations. Finding the perfect seat height won't enhance your descents, but it will improve your ride by a mile, maybe literally in some cases, because the more power you can save, the more single track you can ride. It's relatively easy to get your saddle height in roughly the right position. Put yourself next to a wall or a handy tree to hold on to. Sit on your bike and place your heel on the pedal. You're aiming for a completely straight leg in this position to get your saddle set up right. While you're at it, you might want to make sure it's perfectly aligned as well and pointing dead forward. There's no excuse for riding side saddles here. We've produced a load of brilliant videos about properly setting up your suspension, so take a look at those first to really understand the process. But for now, there are 3 areas to really think about to get that setup dialed. If you do nothing else, make sure to sort out your sag. Getting this right will allow your bike to track the ground much better. Generally, this is dependent upon your riding weight. Make sure before you start that you are wearing all of your normal riding kit, including helmet and pack if you use one. Use the O-ring indicators on your suspension fork or shock to measure how far the suspension sags under your weight. Then, either add or take out air to get the correct position. RockShox print handy measurement guides on the stanchions of their shock or forks. For other brands, refer to their recommendations or our other videos. Rebound dictates how fast your suspension returns to its original length. You're looking to set it fast enough to deal with multiple hits without losing performance, but not fast enough that it transforms your bike into a pogo stick. However you set the rebound, try to balance front and rear setups. There's nothing worse than riding a bike that feels like it's made out of 2 completely different halves. It shouldn't really need to be said, but we all still do it on occasions. Don't forget to release any lockouts before starting the downhills. There's a huge range of reasons for why you should clean and maintain your bike. Firstly, a clean bike will be much more reliable. It'll be less likely to let you down, as clean bits work a heck of a lot better than those covered in mud and gunk. Cleaning also enables you to inspect your bike thoroughly after a ride, so you can spot and stop any damage or wear to those parts. A clean bike will also be much smoother and quieter to ride. Your rider mates will especially thank you for this. After all, nobody likes listening to a dry chain or creaky bits. But most importantly, caring for your bike instills a sense of pride and makes you more likely to want to ride. If there's one simple way to ruin the look of a great bike, it's a massive mess of cables. Not only does it look awful, but cables are the worst culprits for a noisy bike. It doesn't take long to trim them neatly, or even more simply, use zip ties to keep them tight and rattle free. So there you have it, some really useful tips for getting your bike set up totally dialed. Don't forget to subscribe to get access to our latest videos as soon as they are released. And if you have any other tips to get a pro setup, why don't you put them in the comment section below.